refinance the property and pay off our relatives, as well as the previous owner who had lent us the money to get into the property. So within a few years, I started seeing our equity really taking off. And I thought to myself, wow, this is really the way to go. I'm making so much more money as my equity is building from this property than I could ever make by physically working in my trade as a journalist. So that's when I started to get really motivated. And we waited a few years for the equity to go up. As soon as we did have some built-in equity, we refinanced the property and we took out $130,000 from the property. With that money, we purchased our first multifamily investment in Los Angeles, and then we also purchased a vacation home in Kern County, which we currently still have. And that's how we got into our first multifamily. Again, no money out of our pockets. Everything was equity from the property that we currently were living in. And when we bought our investment property, I made sure that the cash flow that we were getting from that property was going to be enough to pay for the additional mortgage that we were now responsible for. And the numbers worked, so we were able to make it happen. We waited a couple of years, and again the property shot up. Things were appreciating really well in Los Angeles at the time. So again, we refinanced our 4-unit property, pulled out another $100,000 from that property, and bought another 4-unit property in the same city, 1 block away. And we just kept doing that over and over again. Unfortunately, the prices in California went up so quickly that we were soon tapped out of our markets. But then I attended a conference with a lady named Lisa Manders, who was very influential at that time, back in 95, 96. She would do seminars all over the country and tout the benefits of being a long-distance landlord. And she really gave me the confidence, the motivation, and the knowledge to make a move out of state. And that's what I did. We ended up going to Arizona. We purchased an investment property in Tempe. That went really well. And again, we just waited for the equity to build, refinanced, pulled money out, and kept growing our portfolio. By the time we were finished, we had 24 units in 5 states and 3 single-family homes that were rentals. So, and literally everything was done with no money out of our pocket because it was just all money from the refinance, yes.
Were you managing the properties yourself, or did you have property managers?
I was managing the properties in Los Angeles, which was a great experience, and actually really eye-opening because most of my tenants were older than me, and they were paying me, rent, and a few of them were pushing their limit. They, one lady came up to me and she was like, "Why do I have to pay you rent? You're too young for me to be paying you rent." I mean, I had snide remarks like that, but I just love managing my own property, and I still do manage my own property in Los Angeles. It was a great learning experience, but the out-of-state properties, of course, I had property managers in those areas oversee the properties. But again, you still have to work when you manage your out-of-state property managers. So anyway, that's how we accumulated our real estate with very little, if nothing, out of our own pocket. So, now one of the ways that we expedited our portfolio and we were able to grow it so quickly is because at the time I was doing something which is known as demographic investing, where I would try and forecast where the biggest appreciating markets would be and invest in those areas. Now, my mentor, Dave Lindahl, calls it emerging markets. And really, that's a great way to expedite your wealth and your growth in real estate. And that's exactly what I was focusing on. Where is the next top market going to be? And I wanted to get in there before anybody else knew about it and buy a couple of properties. So my strategy was go into a market, buy 2 properties, sell one within a year and 1 day. And why do we want to wait 1 year and 1 day, folks? Yes. So sell it short term and keep one long term. And that was the method to my madness, and it worked well. I did it in Arizona, and within 1 year after I purchased 2 properties in Arizona, the market just skyrocketed, and it went up about 45% in appreciation. And then I followed the same formula and went to McAllen, Texas, and that market was actually the #1 market 2 years in a row, in 2007 and 2008, and we have purchased in 2006. So we were really forecasting, trying to figure out where the next top market is going to be. Now, how do you find a great market? That's what I'm going to get into. Yes, Dan?
That was kind of my question. How did you go through and analyze that?
Okay. Well, some of the ways that I would do my research, and I really benefit my background as a journalist to my success because they taught me how to do research. And doing research is so important as an investor. And one of the ways that I would do research is I kept tabs on the U.S. Census Bureau website. You can find so much information on the U.S. Census, in the U.S. Census Bureau website. You can see where the traffic of people are flowing into and out of. You can see how much people make in a certain market, in a certain area. So I was always doing research on that. Then I'm a news junkie. I'm a media junkie. So I'm always reading about real estate. I'm reading about economics and business. And I would follow the news. I mean, it's amazing what you can learn if you just read a newspaper on a daily basis, or watch, a business report, or read some influential good magazines that have good information. You can find a lot of information about where the next hot markets are going to be through the media. I also wanted to keep tabs on where the businesses were heading to. Where were the companies moving to? Where were the companies moving out of? Because big business will go into a market and then the people will follow that business, especially if it's a very influential company that hires a lot of people. So that was another way of doing research. I also did something that is not really discussed too much in real estate events and among real estate investors. I did a historical analysis on a property before I bought the property. And no one really talks about that. But for me, a property is like a person. It has a history. And the past can foretell the future. Most of the properties that I purchased, I did a lot of due diligence, but I noticed that there was a pattern. The properties that I had bought along the way that didn't do very well, that's because I didn't know enough about the properties. I didn't do enough research on the property. I didn't know the history of the property. And the best properties that I have purchased have been from other investors. They've been properties that they own for a long time, but for some reason or another, they weren't able to keep them. For example, maybe they were going through a divorce, or maybe they were over-leveraged, or maybe they were moving out of the area, they just wanted to liquidate. But I noticed that the properties that did really well for